Yeah, although prosecutors don't have to show a motive to get a conviction for first-degree murder, juries want to know the motive, especially when they see this clean-cut guy with no criminal background. They want to know why he did it. Now, I think it's coming into focus why he did it. He seemed to be a devotee of serial killers and crime. I mean, he studied under the BTK's autobiographer. I mean, he was so interested in true crime that it looks like he wanted to be the center of his own story.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
We have a lot to talk about. Let's get started. Hello, Reporter Room investigators. Today we're going to be talking about the fact that Bryan's car was possibly spotted by Fox News in a photo that I'm going to share with you in just a moment after the crimes were committed against Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie near the 1122 King Road residence. We're also going to talk about Bryan throwing away potential evidence in his neighbor's garbage cans. His fellow students made some comments about Bryan's odd behavior, new information on Bryan's cell phone pings, and Bryan's interest and possible connections to BTK. So was Bryan attempting to hide the evidence by throwing it away in his neighbor's garbage? He was seen by law enforcement throwing trash away into his neighbor's garbage bins. Federal investigators literally watched him throw his garbage in neighbors' garbage bins. Boy, this had to have set off alarm bells for them. They were surveilling him for 4 days just prior to his arrest in Pennsylvania, and when they saw Bryan tossing the trash in the middle of the night in his neighbors' garbage bins, I have no doubt that they collected that trash, and they probably have more evidence than they have revealed to us in the affidavit. As I shared with you in my last video, the affidavit is just the tip of the iceberg in the mountain of evidence law enforcement is collecting on Bryan, and they would not have needed a warrant to take the neighbor's trash. With that being said, Bryan has not been found guilty, and everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Now, I'm going to talk about Bryan's connections, this new photograph from Fox News. He may have been caught on video driving near the crime scene after the crime, so please stay with me. Everything I'm sharing with you today is my opinion, and opinions are not facts, so please don't send any negativity to anyone anytime. Let's be kind and good to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. Also, if you could help me out by sharing this video in your Facebook and Reddit chat rooms, I would be so grateful. This would help out this channel so much. So FBI agents were watching Bryan for 4 days prior to arresting him, and Bryan was placed under arrest while he was staying at his parents' house in Pennsylvania during his Washington State University's winter break. I know some of you guys feel like the fact that Bryan renewed his car tags was not a red flag because his birthday's in November, but his needing to renew his car tags would have occurred in the state of Washington. It's a lot more expensive to renew your car tags and register your car in a completely different state. So I do think this is significant. What do you guys think? Bryan's classmates also say they noticed a change in his behavior, and I'm going to talk about BTK and the Fox News photo in just a second, so please stay with me. But throughout the 7-week investigation that followed what happened at 1122 King Road on November 13th, Bryan continued with his schoolwork at Washington State University, and now his fellow classmates are revealing that they noticed a change in his behavior. They said that he was usually a little bit more chatty, but they noticed that he was, quote, completely silent, end quote, when the Idaho 4 student case was discussed in their class. I also thought it was interesting because a student who had Bryan as a teaching assistant in criminal law class last year said to the Washington Post that emails from Bryan were recently deleted from the university's system. So it makes me wonder if law enforcement are gathering all of those up and then deleting them so that nothing is revealed about their evidence. The student said, quote, "He's still listed as a contact, but all our emails from him are gone." Now, he decided to stay unidentified, and I can understand why. So did Bryan know any of the 4 victims? And I'm going to share some more information with you about Bryan's cell phone pings, BTK, and the finding of Bryan's car potentially by Fox News in just a moment. So please stay with me. But knowing whether or not he knew the victims would be very helpful in trying to determine why he did this, what his motive was. And as I shared with you in my wound collector video, it could have been something as simple as a perceived slight that set him off. Now, law enforcement hasn't told us if Bryan has any connection to Maddie, Xana, Kaylee, or Ethan, or if he simply became fixated on someone in the house through social media or through some inert interaction that he had with one of the 4. But Shannon Gray, who represents Kaylee's family, said that Bryan had no known connections to the victim. She told the Business Insider, quote, "No one knew this guy at all." So leading up to what happened at 1122 King Road on November 13th, law enforcement believes that Bryan did stalk the victim's home at least 12 times. So let's talk about those cell phone pings in a little bit more depth than what I got into on the last video. I still want to talk about BTK and the Fox News in just a second, but I want to talk about the cell phone records because they show that Bryan's phone pinged in and around the area of the King Road house on at least 12 occasions, beginning June 23rd and ending November 13th. The exact dates of these instances were not revealed in the affidavit, but all except one ping were recorded in either the late evening or wee hours of the morning. So that's creepy, in my opinion. Kaylee's sister has said that she believes that Bryan was on social media with us. So was he in our chat rooms? Kaylee's sister believes that Bryan would not have been able to resist following the investigation online so that he could watch, quote, his circus unfold. Kaylee's sister also said that she believed that Bryan, quote, went back to the home the morning of, before the police had been called, I think to see if his circus, to say, had started to unfold. I think that's very, very possible. And I agree with Kaylee's sister that is very, very possible. I also think it's possible, though, as I shared with you in my latest video, that he may have gone back to retrieve that knife sheath because he would have known as a criminology student that this would potentially have his DNA on it and that it could be traced back to him. What do you guys think? Do you think he returned to the crime scene to enjoy the circus, to watch what happened? Or do you think he went back there in a panic in an attempt to retrieve his knife sheath? All right, so let's talk about the Fox News finding of the car. Here is a photo of the white car, and you can see passing by the 1122 King Road after, this was recorded after the 4 students were done away with. So what do you think? Is this Bryan's white Hyundai Elantra? Because if this is Bryan's car, this will be significant and important evidence in the prosecution's case against Bryan. Now let's talk about BTK. Did Bryan fancy himself the next BTK? BTK and Bryan may have a creepy connection. For one thing, both were hiding in plain sight. So was Bryan's interest in criminology, which is what he was studying in college, was this due to his admiring one of these creepers? We know Bryan attained a master's degree in criminology in 2022 from Pennsylvania's DeSales University, where he was taught by a Dr. Kathleen Ramsland. Now, Dr. Ramsland is a leading academic authority on the BTK case. In fact, she wrote a book in 2016 about Dennis Rader. Dennis Rader is BTK, and he was, like Bryan, hiding in plain sight. Dennis seemed like a normal, average guy. He was a family man, a government worker, and a church leader by day. He was also smart enough to blend into his community and avoid detection for the string of victims who he stalked and did away with. Now, Dennis relished the headlines that announced what he did, and boy, he liked to taunt law enforcement with messages that he would relay through the mainstream media. However, Dennis's craven need for attention was ultimately his downfall on February 25th, 2005, because law enforcement got him. And it was a computer disk that gave law enforcement the break they needed to catch Dennis Rader and match his DNA. Listen to this. So a computer disk arrived by mail. It was relayed to a cyber cop, Randy Stone, who uncovered Dennis's message about checking an index card for more information, along with the hidden metadata that reveals that the disk had been used previously by a quote Dennis at the Christ Lutheran Church and the Park City Library. Well, Randy Stone was on it. Within seconds, they were able to conduct an internet search for the Christ Lutheran Church, and this revealed the name of its president, Dennis Rader. Now, they got his DNA through familial DNA. A Lieutenant Landwehr and his team learned that Rader's daughter, because they knew it was probably him, they learned that Carrie had been in the hospital. She had gotten a pap smear, and the hospital turned over the DNA sample to law enforcement, and the familial match was from his daughter Carrie to Dennis Rader, and that is how they got him. And this is similar to what happened to Bryan. Bryan's father's DNA was gathered, and it was matched to the DNA left on the knife sheath, and it was learned that there was a familial match from Bryan's father to whoever committed this. And of course, we know now that it was Bryan Kohberger who was indicted. Please subscribe